Hello and welcome to episode number 88 of the Nintendo Jump Podcast. We are a weekly discussion podcast created for Nintendo gamers by Nintendo gamers. It's March 5th. My name is Daryl, and today I am once again joined by my good friend Kevin. How are you, man?
Oh man, like last week and the week before and the week before that, I'm feeling pretty effervescent, I got some organic cold pressed juice for dinner, as well as along with my Celeste sweatshirt that Shy Guy has pointed me to the right website to buy it. I'm feeling pretty good in it. I'm feeling like I'm gonna conquer a mountain with y'all. I'm good to go. How about you, Daryl? How are you doing?
Well, so I'm a bit concerned, and
okay,
I'll tell you why.
Oh no.
So for the past 3 or 4 weeks, you've called yourself effervescent. So I just wanted to ask: are you by chance downstream from like a nuclear plant or anything like that? Is there any reason that we should be concerned? Have you started to glow?
You know what? I've always been glowing. So it's just I'm just stating the fact. But
okay, so you're too far gone already. Never mind. Also this week, we are joined by TJ. How are you, man?
I'm also a little concerned. To give away a little bit of a spoiler, our friend Sergio is not here this week, and I thought I'd take this moment to do a little PSA that mascots are actually people in costumes. They're not the real characters you see in Animal Crossing, as an example.
You shut your mouth.
So you have to be careful how you approach them in real life. But on a related fact, if you want to support Sergio and help him with bail, go to patreon.com/NintendoJump. And you can donate to the cause of getting our dear friend bailed out after what happened with him and KK Slider.
On the plus side, he actually became KK Slider for like 5 minutes while he was running down the street. It was pretty awesome. So
that part was good, yeah.
Sergio, we hope you get out soon. Much love. And also
Likewise.
joining us this week for the first time ever, actually, it's a friend of the show, a Discord member known as ScottTheGeek. Scott, how are you, man?
I am spectacular. I made myself a bowl of ramen from scratch tonight, had that right before the show, so I'm glowing red, which you can't see, but I'm having a good time. I have to tell you, though, you guys are kind of messing with my head tonight, because usually you're just like a little bug in my ear, and I'm listening passively, and now I have to remember, oh, yes, I can talk back.
Yeah, now we're talking to you.
Here we
I
go.
know.
I'll be sitting over here going, Scott, hey, Scott.
It's like, oh, right.
I'm actually supposed to talk now. But anyways, we have some fun stuff to talk about, but I'm just going to go ahead and throw it over to Kevin. What are we talking about?
Well, Daryl, we're going to talk about a few things on the agenda. We got the Game of the Month, Game of the Month rundown/summary. And then we have a very special, summary/main course of PAX East with our special guest host, Scott. We also have a discussion on Nintendo's recent coy behavior/approach on what's been going on for the past, several days or a
Where
month or
is
so.
our direct?
Exactly. Where's our direct, Nintendo? Let us know. Send us an email at nintendojumpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah. Yeah, Bill Trennan, if you are listening to this, just send us an email. No big deal. I know we're technically quote-unquote journalists, but we won't tell anyone. Promise.
We promise. And the Switch is 3 years old. We're gonna talk about that because that is obviously awesome. It's been 3 years. Holy shoot. And we have our weekly question responses and a new question for the week. But bam, that's how we do. So I'm gonna go ahead with you, Daryl and TJ, about the Game of the Month.
Yeah, so we did another round of voting. So our community in our Discord actually voted on the Game of the Month for March, and what was decided was actually Super Mario Maker 2. So round of applause. Hey!
Woo!
Okay, whatever. So this is a game I was actually very I was actually kind of advocating for this one, which, by the way, if you want to have your voice heard on future Game of the Months, please jump in our Discord. That's where you do the voting. That's where we, all the deliberation actually happens. It's also where a lot of the fun happens, such as competitions and prizes and stuff this month. So anyways, I was happy to see Super Mario Maker 2 got picked, because that was a game that I kind of felt was like a casualty of last year. in that it came out, we thought it was going to be huge. It was huge for like 5 seconds, and then it fell off in favor of other games. So I'm pretty glad to be focusing on it. But you know, our good friend TJ, you are running a lot of events and kind of organizing the thing. You know, what are your thoughts so far?
We even in the few days it's been a blast, and anyone who's listening that wants to join, as mentioned, you can join our Discord. There's an invite link on our Twitter account @NintendoJump. We have several levels of competition going on. We have a theme for each week, and you can create up to 2 levels that meet that theme, and other community members will play it and vote on it. And there's also 3 levels curated for speedrunning. We compete with each other. Well, really, Daryl competes with Dragon, and then the rest of us compete with each other. And as you keep dying on levels, it's a fun way to learn to hate your friends. No, I'm kidding.
Very true. Very true.
It's nice. It's just all about fun. You don't have to be the most skilled platformer ever. You can make even really brief courses. Shout out to Eggshen, who's recently joined. He made a course you can speed run in like 13 seconds, and I've had a blast with that one. So you don't have to be like this master creator. Very casual, very fun, and like Daryl said, is breathing some life back into a game that just got overshadowed actually by Fire Emblem Three Houses and then the fall of too many games. So we're trying to bring it back in this lull that we kind of have in spring right here. So please join us. It's been a blast even in the first 5 days, and we look forward to the rest of the month being a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I just made my first course. My wife Beck actually made her first course, despite not really being a huge Mario fan. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. We're having a ball.
And I'm really glad that we have this as a game of the month. And as y'all have alluded to, and for those who don't know, you know, one of the reasons why Super Mario Maker 2 has lost footing for a while was because, not just because of the games that were coming out left and right, but also because, there was this expectation for, being able to play with your friends from the get-go, but then that got delayed for a bit, and it kept getting delayed, and then until by the time that they released the feature, the ability to play with your friends, it was just too late, and it was a little unfair, and I'm sure that they were trying their very best to have a very seamless experience for people to play with each other and not just
Yeah.
Based on how it went, I kind of hope that wasn't their best.
Yeah. So you bring a good point, though. It was 5 to 6 months until that update came out, and this day and age, the way games are cranking out left and right, that's almost like an eternity in video game time, and the game just kind of faded by then.
Yeah, I'm gonna give them a benefit of the doubt. I'm sure they had a lot of stuff going on, but yeah, I don't want to say they have no excuse, but
I'll say it. It's Nintendo. They have the ability and money. They had no excuse. It felt lazy.
All right. Well, you know what? I tried. But
I don't know exactly what went into it, but the fact is now we have a game that has like the Zelda update, which is actually kind of awesome, and the multiplayer update, which works. Well, I'll say the Friends multiplayer update, which works quite well. So look forward to, especially in our Discord, we will be some of our upcoming challenges to give peel the curtain back a little bit. Will be to create multiplayer courses. So we're gonna take advantage of that and see how it goes. So
I'm excited. I'm excited
that.
For those, especially the co-op ones. The versus ones, I'll probably get a little tilted because Mario Physics and I aren't always friends when I'm trying to go
part
fast.
of the fun, though. You're supposed to get tilted.
Rant guy will come out in full force.
Oh,
beautiful.
I'm excited too. Just remembering, when they showed that. I think the Mario Maker 2 championships back at E3, that one E3, and oh god, just the competition between like some of the best players in the world playing, co-op and trying to beat each other, like 2v2. I'm like, man, this is what it's all about, and
that was awesome.
Yeah.
And we're trying to like recreate that at this point.
Yeah.
So I actually have a question. So Scott, normally I put people on the spot and ask them what their favorite Switch game is. In this case, I'm just going to ask you, why is Super Mario Maker your favorite Switch game?
Well, if you hadn't noticed, I've been keeping quiet because I feel like I have to recluse myself from this conversation. I've never played it
because you're too much of a fanboy. I can tell.
No, but here's the thing. It's like the game interests me to a degree. I don't know. You guys all remember the old game Lode Runner, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So back in the day, me and my buddy, we used to make load runner levels that to really try and trip each other up, and so there is kind of that itch that that I have to do that sort of thing, but I don't really have anybody right now that I want to torture with the levels that I'd create. So it might take like one of my friends with a Switch to actually also get it and then kind of get me psyched up. I mean, the game interests me, but in the grand scheme of things, there's so many other games right now that are either games I've already bought and haven't started yet, or that are on my wish list that I haven't bought, that just end up ranking a lot higher. And this day and age, I only have realistically so many hours each day or each week that I can devote to gaming. So
come on, we all have 24 hours in a day to play all 30 indie games that are coming out.
I can empathize with Scott. I mean, there is only so much. I mean,
well, yeah, we all can. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That was sarcasm,
I know,
man. I
know, but
we are all working adults, and it's a fun life. So
yeah.
I kind of buried the lead. Scott, what are shout out to a couple of your favorite games right now.
Well, I am through and through a Zelda fan. I was an owner of the original NES, and the original Zelda was one of the first games I ever got. And I really was drawn into it right away. It really, spoke to me. It was my sort of game. So I played that. I played the second playthrough, which was where they mixed everything else up.
Oh wow!
Yeah. And I played Zelda 2. I even still have my original NES with all my games down in the basement.
Nice.
I think it still works. It's not hooked up. I do have my my Wii still hooked up. I've actually repaired that twice now to keep it operational. It's still hooked to the TV. Have about 50 some odd Wii games, and I have to say that Twilight Princess, probably one of my favorite games of all time. I don't know if you caught me on the video earlier where you might have seen my Zelda t-shirt, which I wore for the occasion today. But yeah, I am first and foremost a Zelda fan. Second would probably be the Metroid games.
Ooh.
Oh, very nice. I mean, if you're going to pick a franchise, pick the best one ever made. So, yeah, perfect. Or if not that, the second best one ever made. So, great choices.
I can stay on the podcast for the rest of tonight?
Yeah, for now. There'll be a few more challenges, but we'll get going. But first of all, I think that's gonna, definitely stay tuned for more Game of the Month discussion. I think that's probably gonna wrap up that for now, and I think it's time to move into our big topic. We just had a big convention show that I was really hoping to go to this year, and because of reasons that I'm not gonna get into right now, I was actually called out of it. So we just had PAX East. PAX East is a huge gaming convention. Among the largest that is not E3 at this point. There's a few large ones. PAX East is definitely among those. And, Scott, you actually managed to go to it. So we definitely wanted to bring you on and get your overall thoughts on the show, the things that you saw that you thought were cool, what you thought about Animal Crossing, because you are now, assuming you played it, you are now a bigger Animal Crossing fan than Sergio. Confirmed. So... yeah, I mean, I don't have a great way to jump into it, but just what were your overall thoughts of the show? What'd you see?
My overall thoughts was that it was a really awesome, somewhat overwhelming, but highly stimulating experience. I'd never been to a PAX before, so I actually don't have a lot to compare it to. Really my first big con even. And so I sort of just dove in. I decided last year that I wanted to knock this off my bucket list. I'd always wanted to go to a PAX. I knew that PAX East was relatively close to me. And just last year I decided I was going to make it happen. I got on the mailing list. And so like the hour that they sent out the email that the badges were available, I hopped on, secured a 4-day badge, made sure I could find a hotel that didn't cost an arm and a leg, and was then just looking forward to it for, up until this past weekend. My first impressions walking in was like, holy crap, because I've never been in the venue before, so I wasn't really sure what to expect as far as how big the whole event is. It is gigantic, and even what you first see when you walk in is not the entirety of it, because you've got 3 floors of side rooms where they're doing panel talks and other rooms with various themes that are going on perpetually through the entire the entire thing. So I really spent the first several hours just wandering aimlessly. Like I instead of trying to sort things out right away, I just walked wherever my feet took me, just kind of, get the lay of the land, take it all in, make mental note of things I might want to come back and, see later, because I did have a 4-day badge. I knew that there wasn't a particular rush. And, so just spent a lot of time doing that at first. You couldn't miss Nintendo. Nintendo was right there as you walked in. You come down the escalator and you could see them right there to the right. The look of the Animal Crossing booth, I'm sure you've all seen pictures and probably videos of it. It was really cool. It was like
pictures that you posted, actually.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
well,
right.
they're better ones than the ones I took. But yeah, it was definitely much like, walking into, the world. But the lines were a bit intimidating, and I'll talk more about the whole line situation. But yeah, I mean, even on Thursday, the first day, which apparently is the quiet day, it was pretty seriously packed. It can be difficult moving around that place, but. And I also feel like I didn't do PAX justice personally, because I am a Nintendo-only gamer at this point, and there's so much more to PAX than Nintendo or even just console gaming. You've got tons of PC games, and so there was a lot there that really didn't apply to me. Even though it might look interesting, harking back to that whole thing that I've only got so many hours in the day to game these days.
Yeah,
right.
I try to stay focused, and so I am a very loyal Nintendo fan. So I've never owned a PlayStation. I've never owned an Xbox. I don't see myself owning one because I'll be dead before I run out of things to play on Nintendo platforms.
You're not missing much anyways.
I used to be a PC gamer, kind of in the span between the original NES and the Wii. It was the Wii that brought me back to console gaming. But these days I am just the Nintendo Switch. And so I sort of use that to stay focused and not get too overwhelmed. So I just tried to stay disciplined, just not have a FOMO over all these other games that were on platforms that I wasn't going to get. But beyond that, you've got the tabletop gaming, you've got all the card games, Magic, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of that. There's like a whole third of the hall is just tables for people to play games against each other. You could walk up and sign out board games from this arsenal of hundreds that they had available and just play them against your friends or play them against random people. So there's so many facets to PAX besides what I was there for that, when people have asked me to talk about it, I'm like, I don't know if I'm the best, reference, because it's not only was it my first PAX, so I can't compare it to past PAXs, but, I was only there for a tiny fragment of what makes PAX what it is. But I did attend a number of panels. Several of the panels I went to were Zelda related, of course. A couple were not, but one of the first panel I went to was kind of an Orientation 101 panel that they had on Thursday morning, which was very helpful. It kind of gave you a crash course, got you oriented somewhat, and then I followed that up.
Very nice.
Yeah, I followed that up with a kind of a PAX 102 panel they had the following day with additional information that was also really helpful. So, I was embracing being a newbie, but it's a really well organized event. And if you've never gone, I highly recommend it. But don't go for just one day. There were so many people that I talked to who were just there for a day, and that would be truly overwhelming. It's impossible to do it justice, even if there's only a kind of a subset that interests you. Just there's so much going on there.
So to that end, did you feel that your 4 days was enough, or did you really need like a 5th day to take it all in?
If I cared about more things than the Nintendo Switch, I would have definitely wanted more days. My feet might disagree with you, because, after 4 days of being, on my feet all day and honestly all night, because the party doesn't end at 6, my feet were killing me. I was, on Saturday and Sunday, I was desperately looking for panels to attend just because it gave me an opportunity to sit for an hour. But for what I was there for, I feel like I saw everything I wanted to see in 4 days. I did miss some panels that I wanted to go to. One very unfortunate, as it turns out, Kit and Krista were there. And they did a live Nintendo Minute. and I only found out about it after it had ended.
Oh,
and so
dang.
I was really bummed about that, because it would have been really cool. Not as cool as hanging out with you guys tonight, but it would have been really cool to see them in person, and be able to say that I did that. But yeah, I think that at the end of it, other than the panels that I missed, I felt like I had accomplished what I had come to do.
I think it's great that you had a focus mindset of just doing Nintendo, just because when you go to these sort of conventions, given my previous experience going to E3 and PSX, it can be very overwhelming. There's just so many things going on, and you just want to do everything, but there's only so much you can do, and you have to gauge how long the lines are gonna be. Then you have to kind of have to sacrifice your time of pretty much, or not sacrifice, but more compromise, where you want to go and what you maybe could do next day or day after, or you want to do now. So I think it's great that you had that sort of focus. I do want to ask you one thing, because in similar gaming conventions, such as E3 that I've attended in the past, they would have something called Indiecade, which is an indie video game festival within the main gaming convention. Now, did Indiecade have a strong presence at PAX East, or did something similar show up in that premise? If so, how'd you like it, and how was it different than the rest of what you observed at PAX East?
Well, they did have a dedicated indie section.
Nice.
I believe it was called Indie Showcase. It was kind of dead center in the main expo hall. It was quite expansive, which is not surprising, because not only are indie games a huge thing on the Switch these days, but there's a lot of indie games on Steam and a lot of indie games on mobile, and so there were tons and tons of indie games. I mean, when you consider the fact that, the big name developers like, Square Enix and Nintendo, their booths take up a lot of the fixed real estate, while an indie game does not. I think it's fair to say that the indie games far outnumbered the big name games. They're just because each one took up less space. So, there was room to cram more of them in. There was also I forget what they called it, but there was even kind of a sub area that was just mini indie game booths, where it was kind of these, it was the really smaller developers, probably one man, one woman shows, where they just would have a single little kiosk in this shared space, and they would change each day. They would have a designated day that they were there, and then they would rotate them out the next day. So tons and tons of indie games, and I have to say that some of the indie games have gotten to the point where you walk up to their booths and you're like, this is an indie game. They've obviously made a fair amount of bucks at this point to really afford a pretty serious setup at conventions like this. So, but to summarize, indie games were huge at PAX.
Yeah, and that's one of the cool things about PAX in particular, is that is really the show that really wants to embrace the indies. In particular, that's famously, we talked to Nick Wozniak from Yacht Club Games, where Shovel Knight got their start at PAX East. In particular, there's always a very, very strong indie presence there. There's also a very strong retro presence there. So I don't know if you found the retro gaming room that's always set up at PAX, but you can walk in there and they apparently have consoles and games just from pretty much anything you could think of. You can walk in and play with people, and it's just a cool show.
Oh yeah, I mean, gosh, I could wax on about the retro stuff for quite a long time. Like I said, I owned the original NES back when, in its day, I owned it. I was quite young.
Yeah,
and
me too.
Saved up my my babysitting money to buy one, because I had seen my cousins. But at PAX, there was a lot of cool retro stuff. I did see the retro rooms. There was one room just for retro consoles, a separate room just for retro handhelds.
Nice.
And they had them all set up, and then you could just sign out a game to play. And I have to say that the range and spectrum of retro consoles that they had. I mean, they had an Atari. Gosh, I don't even know what model it was, but what was the model Atari that was not the dark brown one, the one you all think of as the first Atari, but before that it was a light tan one with a dial, and it only had 4 games built in, and you turn the dial to select which of the 4 games that you wanted.
Yeah,
well, they had.
We're gonna have to ask the Atari Jump podcast
Yeah.
that one. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, they had that there, and people were playing Pong on it, and they had, all through, obviously a bunch of, NES and Super Nintendo, all the ones you expect to have, but they had Neo Geos. They had all sorts of stuff. There were a lot of Dreamcast there. But, aside from the retro rooms, there was a lot of retro stuff in the main expo hall. One of the pictures I posted to the Discord was of this one section. I can't remember who was sponsoring it, but it was just like these 4 CRTs all lined up with various retro consoles where people would kind of just sit on the couch and play games on them. But of particular note, and this was also another picture that I posted, I found an indie developer developing NES games.
Wow.
And he was putting them on NES cartridges. I believe they looked 3D printed, and then he had them there. You could play them and demo his games, but they were new games he was making for the NES.
That's crazy.
That was wicked cool. Yeah.
Wow. Dang. Man, I've never heard that one, but that's awesome. And what were this might be a tough one, but like, what were like the top 3 games that you were like, wow, like these are the ones that I thought were my favorites from the event? Like top 3.
Top 3. Okay, well, the first one you might not expect, and so I'm going to talk. I can talk about that more now, or just give the name now and talk about it more later.
Mm-hmm.
But Harmonix had a pretty awesome booth there for their new upcoming game called Fuser.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
And I'd love to talk about that more. And obviously, probably Animal Crossing was one just because it was Nintendo's main showing. Now, I have to admit that I have mixed feelings about Animal Crossing. Some I don't need to go into, but I've got
you're not alone.
NJP has swung strongly in opposition to Animal Crossing at this moment.
Well, it has some like negative connections to my personal past, and so I can kind of get beyond that. Although I did play the Wii version, City Folk, quite a bit, so I do have experience in the franchise. But that was the first and only Animal Crossing I've ever played, and then, gosh, I don't know what my third would be. I was really intrigued by the new Ease game coming up. I can't remember what the name of it was.
Ease 9 or 10?
I'm not sure it even had a number.
Oh, interesting.
Is that coming to Switch?
I think so. I'll need to do some research on that. But the reason I mentioned that one is because I beat Ease 8 not too long ago, and so Ease is kind of still fresh in my mind.
Nice.
I mean, it's no Xenoblade, but I still had a good time playing Ease 8. So the fact that there was another Ease game coming up, it did sort of strike my attention, and so that's probably on the list. I'm trying to remember, is the Final Fantasy VII remake going to come to Switch? Have we heard confirmation about that?
No,
yet.
it is PlayStation exclusive, at least at the start.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because confession time, I have never played a Final Fantasy game, but if you think about the fact that I've been a exclusively Nintendo player my entire life, that's not too surprising. So I'm kind of anxious to play some Final Fantasy games. I know we've got some out now. We've got Final Fantasy 10 and 10-2 and so on. And so those are on my to-do list, kind of higher up there, because that's really my kind of game. So as far as my third, it's kind of hard to say, but it would probably be something in that genre.
Before we continue, I really like the fact that you talked about Yeast 8, because I'm playing that right now and it is fantastic. I'm like 7 hours in, and it's a really awesome game so far. I'm not going to get too much into it, but I do highly recommend it for those who want something a little different, than Xenoblade Chronicles. And I have the Final Fantasy VII Remake demo on my PS4 right now. I haven't tried it yet, but I will soon. So I am excited for that. And the other 6 that are coming out due by 2030. So we'll see how that goes. But that's cool. Dang, yeah. So for these sort of events, there's a lot of swag. There's gonna be free stuff like maybe pins or even T-shirts for trying out games. Now, how was the swag like at PAX East? And for those who don't know, swag is stuff we all get. So
I think people probably know what
okay,
swag
I'm you know, just to be clear, but yeah.
The swag at PAX is huge. It's definitely a thing. It's very competitive. But I have to tell you about swag and how it relates to me.
Ooh.
You know, the first day that I was there on Thursday, you know, I had this kind of small backpack that I lugged around, and you know, it wasn't too big because I wanted to travel light. So it had my Switch, it had a battery pack, it had some other things in it. If I had gotten any swag, I wouldn't have had a lot of room for it. But I did lug that around, you know, thinking, oh, I'll play my Switch when I had any downtime. Well, I didn't have any downtime. I didn't play my Switch at all. But it actually got to the point where the swag, the backpack was actually a hindrance because there were things after, you know, PAX, like the after parties and so on, where they, you know, you go to a club or you go to a bar where no bags allowed.
Ooh.
And so, yeah, or if you did have a bag, you know, they would send you to a different line. You know, cool tangent here. Bethesda had they basically rented out 2 of the bars in the Westin and took them over and turned them into their own kind of mini separate showing for you know, Doom Eternal, and what's the other one there that they're coming out with? The name escapes me, but basically it was kind of their own little party starting at 1 until 9 o'clock. You know, showing their games, and so, but they had free food and 2 free drinks if you got in.
Oh, nice.
And so yeah, and so there was huge line for people to get into that because it didn't cost anything, and people wanted all the free stuff. And so, you know, people were talking about how they've been waiting in line for 2 hours, 3 hours, and so on. And so finally, there was this one day I was like, well, I'll just tough it out and I'll get in line, and you know, because I want to check this out, and also I wanted the free drinks. And so. And so I get in line. I was only in line for a few minutes, and then this girl and her boyfriend in front of me, the girl asked one of the people working the line, and she's like, is there like a separate line for people without bags? And he kind of pauses for a minute. He's like, follow me. And I didn't have, and at that day, I didn't have a bag because I ditched my bag. That was day 2, or I ditched my bag because it was a problem and a hindrance, and I decided I didn't need it. So because I didn't have a bag while I was waiting the Bethesda line, I skipped a 3-hour line and, and got brought to the VIP line.
Wow.
Where we only waited like, you know, 60 seconds while they just kind of waved us in. And so, you know, so I got to the point where I was like, you know, I am going to carry as little as possible. And so one of the side effects was that I was really kind of trying to resist the swag. You know, I did collect some swag from Fuser, which I, again, will talk about in length. But
if you want, let's go ahead and talk about it. So, you know, like, what is Fuser?
Okay, so Fuser is, I mean, if you all know, you know, Harmonix made Rock Band and so on. And so Fuser is their latest kind of, I guess you could call it a rhythm game, but not so much. It is, you're a DJ. And and you know, we had DJ Hero, but Fuser doesn't involve any plastic. So you're just using, you know, regular controllers. And you are a DJ, and you are just kind of playing to a club. And so you've got these 4 turntables, and you have a library of music. And what you can do is you can select one of 4 tracks from each of the songs. You know, they kind of breaks them down to like the bass, the rhythm part of the song, the vocals, and like, you know, maybe if there's horns or some other, you know, musical aspect. You know, each song has 4 tracks you can pick from, and then you have a library that you can pull one of these sections from each of your songs and drop it onto one of the turntables, and they all kind of mix together. And you don't have to do 4, you could just do 1. You can mix it up. You could have multiple, you know, rhythm sections. You could have multiple vocals. And the premise is very simple, but what really caught me was the fact that there's a lot of magic going on behind the scenes that isn't obvious to you if you haven't ever like seriously done this sort of DJing in real life. Like I have a past life as a DJ, and so it did strike a chord with me, no pun intended. But
you totally intended that one.
You should always intend your puns, yes.
But you know, I was just kind of listening to, and this, I was kind of just standing there watching it from afar, just really appreciating the magic that was going on behind the scenes, because no matter what you threw at the tables, no matter how different these songs were, the game manages to mix them with auto-tune and rhythm adjustments and tempos and whatever it takes to actually make these things that you've chosen blend together and actually work. And, obviously some mixes are going to sound better than others, and that's where you get to be the artist and do your own thing. But it just really struck me as being this really slick tech that they've come out with. And so it doesn't surprise me that they're really trying to push the appeal. Now, I can understand why some people would look at it and be like, this is dumb, where's the challenge, where's the game part, because it's nowhere near the difficulty as like Rock Band and Guitar Hero was. There's not that much complicated aspect to it. In fact, it seems like the only way that that your only goals are to like earn points by satisfying audience requests. So, someone from the audience will yell up, play me more of, songs from the 80s, or give me a different vocal, or, I want more, rap, or, they'll just throw out random things. And then you get points by, managing to satisfy audience, requests, which do time out if you don't pull them off in a sufficient amount of time. And you get extra points if you drop the beat, like right on the beat, and stuff like that. But, all in all, at least in the short demo that they allowed you to play, it didn't really seem like there was a big challenge to it. And so you kind of might be wondering, okay, so where's the game? Where's the fun? But it really caught me that the fun is just as kind of the casual, thrill of just getting to play with music. And I can really see it as something like, let's say you're having a social event and, you'd be playing some music in the background anyway. Maybe you're streaming Pandora, Spotify, YouTube, whatever. And so instead of just passively just playing something off the internet, maybe you have this going. And so that people in the party can be, more interactive and contributing to the background music more. And so maybe your friends are just kind of bouncing, rotating in and out, just, doing their own thing to provide the music for your social gathering. But, this was the one game, and I know that you're going to be disappointed. This is the one game that I actually waited in line to play. I actually waited in line twice because
So you're not a bigger Animal Crossing fan than Sergio.
Well, like I said, I have mixed emotions about Animal Crossing. There's some other things about Animal Crossing I can talk about, but no, I did not end up waiting in line for Animal Crossing. I did sort of try. You did get an opportunity to try and register your PAX badge to get in on what Nintendo called the Warp Pipe, which was kind of a lottery to try and reserve a specific time to play the game, so you wouldn't have
Nintendo.
So you wouldn't have to wait in line. Those would happen at 5:00 each day for the next day's afternoon. They sold out probably in about 10 seconds.
Oh gosh!
And so,
Not surprising.
not that it cost money, but they were gone in just seconds. And so, so that was kind of the one way I was willing to try and get in on playing it, because the lines to play it were insane. I talk about how in like the Bethesda lines were hours long just to get into the party. It was not uncommon for people to talk about waiting 2 hours or more to play a game. So when we get back to how I talked about how I really wanted to, be, deliberate about how I spent my time, I really didn't want to spend my time at PAX waiting in lines. You get to wait in line for hours to play a game, 4, 5 minutes, 8 minutes, and how much are you really going to get out of those 8 minutes? And and at my age, I need more than 8 minutes just to kind of like figure out which way is up in the game. And so,
also, I'm just gonna say, waiting 2 hours to play like 10 minutes of a life sim game just feels extremely questionable to me.
Right. And so I spent a lot of my time, just elbowing my way as close to the people playing the game as I could, and then watching other people play. Because honestly, I probably got more out of that than I would have gotten playing it myself. And so I watched a lot of Animal Crossing kind of behind the scenes, and watched a lot of other games. But it was only Fuser that I actually played, because it really just, it just resonated with me. And the more I kept walking past it, the more I found myself just stopping again and just watching it for a while. And here's the funny thing, I talked about how I dismissed a lot of games where I was like, oh, this is just PlayStation, or this is just Steam, or this is not gonna come out on Nintendo Switch. And for whatever reason, I just sort of assumed that Fuser was in that category. This was a game that, obviously had a lot going on behind the scenes. They had a lot of dough to throw at their booth at PAX, which was basically set up as a recreation of the DJ booth in the game. And so we're talking like this stage. They had pyrotechnics. I mean, it was a big deal. And I think it wasn't until the second or third day of PAX that I finally thought to look up on Google, is Fuser coming out for Switch?
It is coming to Switch this fall.
It is coming to Switch this fall. Yep. And so that's when I really kind of let myself get excited and stop dismissing it.
So that's cool. Actually, I tell you, it reminds me a lot of, I don't know if you ever played like the physical game Drop Mix with the cards and such. That game was a little janky, but it was kind of the same type thing where you could layer the different tracks based on which card you put down on the carriage. It was neat. It was kind of it was a little bit less directed, so it was kind of use it for like 20 minutes and okay, I'm done. So I'm kind of intrigued by the idea of having it in a video game where you actually might be able to put some goals around what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, and it's left to be seen how the game ramps up as far as challenges that they might give you and other ways that you can earn points. I mean, the game is still early in development. They only had 16 songs available, which honestly, after 4 days of listening to it, they started to wear on you. But that was just for the demo. When it gets released, it's going to have 100 songs baked in, and then they're going to have more songs available for DLC. And even points aside, as I started watching, and this was more the case when I watched the actual Harmonix employees play, because every now and then they had a scheduled time of day where one of the employees would get up on the main stage and do kind of a live demo of it, and you could tell that these guys had been playing it for a while, and you started to see where skill can play a role. It might not always translate to points, but it definitely translates to stuff that you listen to it wow, he just killed it. For example, there was one of the DJs, if you want to call him one of the Harmonix employees, where he closed out his DJ set by one pulling off the tracks that were on each of the 4 turntables until he just kind of left it with one remaining, and it was perfect. He knew going in that this, that if he just kind of let it trickle down to this one, that just the way that track sounded was just the perfect way to end a set. And I'm just I wanted to high five him, you nailed that. That was awesome. and so so there's going to be personal satisfaction that you're going to get from it, even if you aren't necessarily doing it for the points. And so I think that's where it's going to have a lot of appeal. It's not going to appeal to everybody. It's not necessarily going to have the same challenge, at least from what I saw. But I personally am excited about it, and I think a lot of people will find a calling in this game.
Well, I'm glad you talked about how casual it is, in a sense that it could be inviting as a party game, because I remember having Rock Band, and I'd have friends over that didn't play games, and I'd get out the instruments, Guitar Hero, and I'd try to convince them, this game's awesome, and I'd show me playing a solo on Expert, and they would look at the guitar and just be like, what is this? And then it never worked out. But the fact that it's just regular controllers and friends can hop in, it seems like pretty cool. You've piqued my interest in it. I watched the trailer and I was like, what is this? I'm not interested in that. But I'll take a second look at it after listening to you.
So I gotta tell you about my first Rock Band experience too. So when they were bringing out Rock Band, they used to bring to college campuses, and I was in college at the time. They would bring this tour bus around for Rock Band that doubled as this little the sides would fold down and make a little stage. So nice. You would be playing a song with 4 plastic instruments on stage in front of tens of people, and it was extremely corny but also kind of awesome. So this is all flashing me back to that experience. So
I'm having visions of the South Park episode now.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was totally exactly like that, and I still to this day remember playing Danny California on a plastic bass on stage. So that happened. That was a thing.
Nice.
So we would be completely remiss, and yeah, Fuser sounds awesome. We will definitely keep our eyes on it.
Can I just say one more thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
One real quick. I just had kind of an inspirational comparison. Fuser seems to me to be a lot like pinball, where you can play pinball one of two ways. I mean, pinball's a very, in its essence, it's a simple game. You just have two flippers. That's the only controllers that you got to worry about, and the goal is simply, obviously, to keep the ball going as long as you can, and then you get a thrill by watching those points just ramp up, ridiculously. So you can either play it like a casual person, where that's all you care about, and you don't worry about anything else, and you just dive right in, or you could try and be a pro and really kind of, work the nuances and learn the table and learn the tricks and so on, and get enjoyment out of it that way. But it can be approached from either direction, and either way it has its appeal. And I think there's a lot about Fuser that just comes across as like a, kind of a music rhythm type pinball game.
And I think this is like all amazing. I'm just thinking about the days where like I would play Guitar Hero back in college with my friends on the dorm, and like we were just trying to outcompete with each other. But I think in this sort of sense, it's nice because it's like we're just all enjoying the music and just coming together. And when I think of Fuser, I think of like raves. I think of like concerts like Coachella, like Lollapalooza in Chicago, Outside Lands in SF. I mean, this is a very great idea. It's a really smart idea actually to incorporate this sort of thing into a game, and I'm pretty excited. I probably pre-order this right now if I have the chance. I mean, this is
it's here really first.
Nice. Yeah, this is great. Like I would not, and you said that out of all you waited in line for this one. I think it's worth it. I mean, hell yeah, this is like totally unique. It's different. It's bringing back like the love of music into a format where everyone can enjoy and just explore different ways to play the music. Like, how cool is that? It's not about competition. It's about community, and I think it's important to have those kind of games. And I think Fuser seems like a great candidate for that format. So I'm stoked. This is great.
Yeah.
And I swear that I am not sponsored by Harmonix.
Oh, you are not sponsored
yet.
by Harmonix in the same way that Kevin is not sponsored by the Brew Doctor or whatever. The
kombucha,
yeah, we definitely have multiple sponsorships that you guys are not sharing, and I understand that. I respect the game. Anyways,
and I never did ask them if there was any co-op play, so I don't know about how that might work out.
Oh, that would be great.
I mean, the co-op play is the journey we all just took together. So, I would be remiss to ask. So, Nintendo had a large presence at this show. However, the large presence was literally Animal Crossing.
I was going to say just Animal Crossing, and then I realized that's not true. Before you entered the main expo hall, they actually had a whole thing set up in the lobby, which was Pokemon Sword and Shield. Which is really interesting because here's a game, here are games that have been out for a while, and it was just kind of as you come in. In fact, I believe it was before they even checked your badges. So, and anyone could have walked up and just played it, but they had all these little just walk up screens, maybe 20 some odd of them, where you could just walk up and play Pokemon Sword and Shield. So so inside the main expo, yeah, it was only Animal Crossing, but they had other stuff too.
That's what we call a nostalgia trap right there.
I was gonna say, did they have actually any good games or?
Oh God! Don't do this! Don't do this, TJ. All right. So, about Animal Crossing, since it was their primary focus this year, there were people, I mean, just judging as an outsider, there were people in costumes. There were a bunch of people, playing around with like the house on set and like the big kind of island get up that they had. And there were seemingly hundreds of people standing around watching Animal Crossing, which just felt awkward to me. How was that? Like, what did you gain from that, if anything?
Well, I got to see a lot more about the game that I had not seen in the stuff we had seen in directs and so on, and so I didn't get as much out of it as I would like to. But at one point, it just occurred to me, it's like, you know what, this is Animal Crossing in HD, and it's just kind of a natural iteration improvement of it. And, anyone who loves Animal Crossing is just going to love, New Horizons even more. I did appreciate getting to watch stuff that wasn't pre-recorded. so you could see a little bit more variety. But I didn't feel like I had to stand there for a lot of time to figure out what I needed to figure out, which was like, okay, this is something I should probably check out if Animal Crossing interests me at all. I just my other personal beef about Animal Crossing is the whole cloud saves and data transfer stuff, which I am very passionate about. So I really want to also make sure that they sort that out before I get invested in it, because I'm one of those people who's convinced that we are going to get like a Switch Pro or some sort of, improved Switch. And if I don't want to invest in Animal Crossing only to not be able to transfer it over. And I think that from what I can see, Nintendo's getting the message. They're going to come out with something. It's not going to be on launch, but I'm still going to reserve, investing in it until I see that whatever they do come up with is a good solution. But my takeaway was that people are psyched about this game. I don't think that any other exhibitor at PAX had the bigger problem of managing crowds as Nintendo did with the Animal Crossing booth. I mean, there were certainly a lot of people just waiting in line to play, Final Fantasy, but with the Nintendo crowds were something else entirely, because you had multiple lines. On one side of their square, you had the people waiting in line to play. On another side of the square, you had people waiting in a separate line to get the photo op on that,
oh wow!
Yeah, that was the whole separate line that people were waiting like hours for. And then
oh no!
And then on the third line, they had people waiting forever just to get to the merch table for all the PAX exclusive Nintendo merchandise. So Nintendo was managing multiple lines. It was the only booth that I saw having to like manage traffic control. Like Nintendo went and sort of unilaterally chose one section and said this is a one way, and so you had all these people just randomly trying to maneuver through PAX who were getting blocked by Nintendo, who had decided that this is a one way and you can't go this direction because it's the only way that we can manage our crowds. Like they would have to fracture the lines and have like a line crossing, so they had part of their line on one part of the highway, so to speak, and then they would stop all the non-Nintendo visitors so that they could then let people from the Nintendo line cross from one side to the other.
I'd say I think that explains, which we're going to talk some maybe a little later, but Nintendo is like all in on Animal Crossing right now, to the point where we aren't hearing anything else. And I think Animal Crossing fans are rubbing their hands together, knowing that's how they felt for so long. And now it's nothing but news about Animal Crossing, because it is such this huge phenomenon, as you just witnessed there at PAX East. This game's just going to print money. And I think Nintendo can afford to go to PAX East and get a huge booth, and everyone talking about, it's got to be a Nintendo Direct. They're going to fill that booth with tons of games. And Nintendo says,
nope.
Animal Crossing, right? And that's it.
We're going to fill this booth with tons of game,
yes. And it's going to make as much money as tons of games, plural. So the fandom for that is unreal. I can't think of a single game in my life that I'd want to wait hours in line just to take a picture with the prop or play 10 minutes of it when it's coming out in 3 weeks.
Right.
Well, I'll see you at home.
No, I mean, so a game like something like Zelda Breath of the Wild, absolutely. If I had gone to E3 the year that it was first shown and playable, yeah, I would have waited as long as I could have waited to play that game, because that game is like life-changing, incredible. I understand Animal Crossing is that for some people, but Animal Crossing is almost that on kind of a deep personal level. So it's always felt a little mismatched with this concept of like giant show to me. But I'm glad to hear that people are actually happy. But I think TJ, I think you bring up a really good point, and I think we should probably transition at this point. First of all, Scott, we are now extremely jealous of you. So next year we're definitely going to try to, at least I am definitely going to try to hit this show up, because I just want to at some point. It sounds like a ball. So definitely thanks for telling us about it and making us all jealous. But let's talk a little bit about the strategy lately. So, oh boy, yeah, Nintendo was definitely going to have a Direct at some point this year, right?
Don't worry, they were going to have 2 last month, so.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Wait a minute.
That did not happen. We made a joke on our Discord that we were holding this show hostage and we would not release a new episode until there's a Direct, which for sure means there would be one tomorrow, right? But Man, so what are you guys' thoughts on, what are we expecting here? What is, if you're looking at this from the outside, we're kind of in uncharted territory. What would you say is the actual strategy here?
Well, I've got a couple thoughts. Because first, it's the longest drought without a direct since they've started doing them. And then, yeah, I think first, what I said earlier, they are all in on Animal Crossing. And I think it's going to pay off for them, quite frankly. I think this game hits 15 million awfully fast. I don't know if it'll rival Pokemon, but it might. And they can afford to do that because of how successful the Switch is at this point. The second thing is, I think the back half of this year, it's just like a hunch, is going to be absolutely loaded. So they're like, we can wait. We can, sit here and shell out Animal Crossing because the wait's going to be worth it. And in the end, the fans are going to be happy. I'll be happy to get on the mic later and say I was wrong and rant and rave. But I have a feeling some of these announcements coming for the back half of this year are just going to be amazing. And Nintendo knows it, and they know they can afford to just kind of sit back and let the magic happen.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And I mean, obviously for me, I am like all y'all. Like I wish there were a direct coming soon. And I mean, I'm hoping there might be one in like I'm gonna guess now that it's gonna be in April. And they're gonna talk.
You heard it here first.
You heard it here first. I'm gonna say early April, and they're gonna have people just have a couple weeks to Animal Crossing, and then boom, a direct. And then I'm gonna say right now that they're gonna talk about Hollow Knight, Silk Song. They're gonna talk more about some of the games that they talked about in the other, like the previous direct, like Sports Story, Inmost, Bravely.
But those are all indies. I don't know, because those don't generally show up in the big directs.
Yeah,
Silk Song will, almost
will,
assuredly.
Right.
And they are kind of due for another like indie direct at some point. But
yeah, well, the last indie direct was weird because they were all like coming a long time away from now, and you're like, okay, great.
Well, here's one theory. I mean, one possibility could be that they were holding off on the direct because the next direct is going to feature kind of a bunch of games that were only introduced and announced at PAX. And so maybe they've been just holding back because they wanted to let them be introduced at PAX first, and then now they can, they've got it all ready to go. They just got to pull the trigger on it. I mean, I don't think there's anything more they need to say about Animal Crossing at this point. I mean, everything that they need to say has been said. They've gotten all the excitement that they need to get out of it. They can just let that go on autopilot at this point. So one of my theories is that it's going to be those PAX games that were just announced at PAX, and then they can showcase a few of those. Another possibility could be that they're looking to just blindside us. Maybe they're waiting for one of these other games to get to a point where they've got enough stuff to put together a good direct. Maybe we're going to get a direct with some more material on Breath of the Wild 2, or wouldn't it be crazy if we got a direct that just gave us a little bit of an update on Metroid Prime 4? So who knows? But I think that it's either going to be PAX related stuff, or it's going to be something really awesome that they're going to blindside us with.
Man, I'm gonna say right now, give us a Mario RPG. I mean, that would be great.
Like Super Paper Mario.
Yeah.
Well, the rumor is return to Paper Mario, which would be awesome. Yeah, and I'm gonna actually kind of agree with Kevin here. So at this point, there is zero chance. I'm going on record. There is zero chance that a direct happens next week.
Zero.
Hey, see you guys, I got him. I got him now.
It's gonna happen.
Got him right where I want. No, anyways, I actually kind of agree with the April thing because if Nintendo makes sense, which they usually don't, I say lovingly, but if they do, then they let Animal Crossing come out to be the money printing machine it is, and they don't risk overshadowing it with anything that they're going to show now. Not that I really think that you could overshadow it because it's kind of in its own league. It's kind of its own, like, it's playing its own game in Nintendo. But, yeah, just, like, they don't want to drop, like, big Breath of the Wild 2 trailer on us or anything right before Animal Crossing. Maybe. I don't know. But, April kind of feels right for me. What would you say that the odds are, like... What are the chances that Nintendo has literally just moved on from directs?
Well, I was gonna mention that, and shout out to Naprat in the Discord. He made some good comments about that. I mean, maybe they check the analytics on their videos and people just are dropping off and only watching for brief amounts of time, or we've seen this increase in kind of like drip feed of news through Twitter. I mean, they could be just like you said, changing their strategy. I think maybe they stick around, perhaps dropping in frequency. It could be they're not changing at all, but remember, Animal Crossing was delayed. And it could be they have all these games sitting there waiting that they wanted to talk about, but they don't.
True.
Like, this is the game they want to spotlight right now, and now everything else got pushed back. So now Nintendo looks awkward with this silence of what's going on. But yeah, I thought about that too. It is possible the Direct is fading away, but I hope not, because we get so hyped for them and they're such big events for us.
They're just fun.
Yes.
Like
yes.
they're always
Absolutely.
just even the disappointing ones are just fun.
Yeah,
yes.
I don't think Nintendo's going to give up on the Direct. I think this is just a fluke for some reason that might become apparent later. You know, Nintendo has always loved just being weird and different and quirky, and these Directs have been one of those unique things to Nintendo that, you know, the other, you know, companies don't do. And so they love to embrace the things that make them unique, and, you know, so I don't see them giving up the Directs anytime soon.
I sure hope not. And another thought was that with coronavirus disrupting a lot of the economy in Asia, there could be delays on things where announcements need to be pushed back because of production issues, or even forgot the name of the game, but they delayed release coming to Switch because they couldn't even meet in their office to work and develop the game. So there's significant impacts caused by that as well. That might have a small role. Of course, we've had drought in the Direct before this virus became public knowledge, but I think it does have to have a little bit of an effect too. So there's a lot of things in play. But you heard it here first, Direct coming in April. So
That's right. And no, you brought up a good point. I mean, the coronavirus thing, it's a tough situation, and you know, it's and for that game that you were mentioning, hopefully the people are okay. You know, it's tough, and but yeah, I'm gonna say April. You know, Nintendo, please let us know that we're right.
Well, I mean, we got a 30-day span to be right. It's a pretty wide net we just cast.
yeah.
So
Hey, Nintendo, whatever you do, do not do a Direct next week. I need to be right on this.
You need to be right, man.
Hey guys, I got him. No, I
we
think
are influencers.
And one thing that we know for sure, and we actually know for sure now, Nintendo is coming to E3, or doing some sort of something at E3, assuming E3 still happens, which it sounds like it is.
Yep.
So we will find out information at some point this year. Is what I'm saying, and I would expect something ahead of it for sure. But I guess we'll just buckle in and, you know, keep planning important episodes that might just be overrun by an immediate emergency Direct reaction. So there you go.
Well, there you go. In the meantime, there's no shortage of great games to play on this system, and I'm actually catching up on my backlog, which I was caught up on, and then I bought like 18 games, but I'm almost caught up again. So, you know, it's actually been kind of fun to get to play all these different titles I kept staring at. So it's been a refreshing time, honestly, because when the backlog gets too large, gaming becomes like a checklist and a chore, and I stress out.
I
so.
hate that.
Yeah,
I hate it.
same.
So I'm actually enjoying this little bit of downtime, despite all the rage I read on Twitter about it. So
Yeah, that's why I've been playing more Yeast 8, having some more time, and then obviously with our Game of the Month. I mean, it's a pretty nice break right now, so yeah.
Yeah, I actually I've been playing a lot of Civilization 6, which I just got. I will talk about later on. So
Nice.
But in other news, so the Switch just turned 3 years old, which also means Zelda Breath of the Wild just turned 3 years old, and
Pass on next.
yeah, that one.
Yeah, well, it was fun for like 3 weeks for me, and then
Was it?
yeah, I liked it. I mean, for what it's worth, like it was fun to just have like that F-Zero fix, even though it wasn't F-Zero, but it was still
No,
fun.
it was not.
I know,
F-Zero.
but it was
but
still fun.
what's funny though is the cycle repeats. 3 years ago in the system release, there was Breath of the Wild, and then ... question mark. So
Yeah, but if you really think about it, I think Mario Kart came out in April, and then ARMS came out in June, and then Splatoon came out in July. I mean, it was not. it was there was not really a shortage there. There were, they would let us focus on games for like a month and then move on.
That's true.
But anyways, I digress. It has been a great 3 years. We've done like look back episodes before, so unless you guys really want to, I don't really feel a need to go. But I can say, if you guys have a couple games that you want to throw out that maybe flew a little bit under the radar for most people, but you do want to highlight, now would be the time.
Ooh, boy. I mean, oh gosh, like that's a hard one because I was gonna say, well, Celeste has been like over the radar, like
that's not really under the radar.
That's not under the radar, yeah.
Celeste is the radar.
That's an IGN 10 out of 10. Yeah, I don't think that qualifies.
No, it doesn't. But for those who haven't gotten it, what are you doing? Get the game. But games that I thought were underrated. I really did. I think there was one that I talked about for a bit. I mean, Thimbleweed Park, I thought it's underrated. Like, if you are a person who loves point-and-click adventure games, pick that one up. I mean, I wish it got more attention than it has. And, like, I mean, it's by one of the OGs, Ron Gilbert. Come on. Like, he's, like, a legend in the point-and-click genre adventure type of game. And I would highly recommend picking it up. I don't know how much it is, but it's not that expensive. I don't think so. Just that's a game I would highlight. Thimbleweed Park. Pretty awesome story, very good. Point-and-click adventure. Just makes you relish like the classics. Like Grim Fandango and Full Throttle by one of my favorite game devs, Tim Schafer. So anyway,
I have one. I don't know if I know how to say it correctly. It's either Thoth or Thoth. It's Thoth. And it's a real, just plain styled, flat colored shmup. And it's done so intelligently. I think it's just done by a single guy. And the mechanics in it, I could probably spend half an episode talking about how intelligent the mechanics are. But you're not only worried about shooting the enemies, but where you are when you shoot them, the order you shoot them, and then after you shoot them, they don't actually go away. They lose their color, and now they become faster and are constantly tracking you. So there's so much strategy involved. Instead of just let's shoot everything on the screen and not die, you're worried about, where am I? What order am I doing things? There's only one weapon and one movement. But it's 64 levels that I think I got through it in 2 days. But there's an endless runner mode and different things. I think it's $5, but if you buy it, you also get the game 140 by the same developer. I don't know if I can say his first name correctly, so I'm not trying to say it. But
That's all right.
2 games for $5. They're both great games. But it was more than just the stereotypical shmup. There was the layers of strategy involved. I just loved my time with it, and I don't know if hardly anybody knows about it. So I would recommend that.
That's a good poll.
You can decide how to say it.
You had me at shmup. I mean, sign me up, man. Like, you've mentioned it before in the Discord community, and it's on my wish list. Might as well pull the trigger.
Well, Scott, do you have any you wanted to mention? Any maybe rare gems or games that people may have easily missed on the so well designed eShop and you think deserve a mention?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of how many that might not have been mentioned plenty of other times in the past in your show, but I did have this period where I was kind of knocking through a backlog of some of the smaller games. So I went and burned through games like Child of Light, Firewatch,
yes,
Gris. Gosh, what else? Well, I finally finished Okami, but that's not unknown. Forgotten Anne was kind of interesting. But those are kind of some games that have only gotten mentioned maybe sometimes really briefly, and I don't think they get enough praise, especially Gris, which I'm pretty sure you guys praised a lot. But those were games that really kind of, they weren't just fun, but they really affected you and just how amazing they were.
I almost feel like we didn't talk about that enough either, because I didn't play it at the time, and I'm not sure that anybody who was on the show at the time was playing it. But at some point, I think we should probably talk about Greece.
Yeah,
I'll be happy to.
Yeah, I mean, I would say of all those that I listed, I would single out Gris or Grease or however you pronounce it, and also Firewatch, just because each game is so different than most other games you've probably ever played. I mean, with Gris, it's hard to believe that what you're watching isn't just like an animated movie, that it's actually a game that you are controlling. And Firewatch is just so unique in the type of, I mean, it's a walking simulator of sorts, but it's a unique game and interesting story. The woman who did the voice, the woman's voice in Firewatch was one of the panelists at PAX.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
that's so cool.
She was just on an episode not that long ago of Desert Island Cartridges with Switch Island. So yeah, I would just to get on into kind of a weird one. I would actually say Floor Kids. So you guys remember Floor Kids?
I remember that's like the hip hop one, right? Where you can
like a breakdancing score based game where you like freestyle breakdancing. I actually love the game. I really, really like what they did with it. It actually, some of the stuff you were saying about Fuser kind of struck me as it's more of a, like, if you start thinking of like a Tony Hawk style game about breakdancing, but without really the right things to do, like you can kind of just do it however you want. You can freestyle your own way with the game. And it's just, I like the way it's animated. I just like, I like playing it. It's just kind of a joy to play. So yeah, I would definitely recommend Floor Kids to anybody who's interested in it.
I am now Googling Floor Kids.
Floor Kids, man, and it's $19.90 on the eShop. The very well designed eShop.
It goes on sale a lot, so yeah, definitely wait for a sale. But yeah, I like it. But I think that is probably gonna do it for us. We do have so we failed to do the question last week, so we're gonna jump into it this week. And I think TJ, you're handling it in Sergio's absence while he's in jail.
Yes, I basically have his Word document he's able to sneak out with a stolen cell phone from with behind bars. But last week's, I guess 2 weeks ago, the question was make up a Fire Emblem game or subtitle using the following format: Fire Emblem, the something something. And we got a fair amount of answers. Dragon, he said, I guess he found it in the chat, but he repeated it. Fire Emblem, the lost items. And then Cube had Fire Emblem, throws dart, Clockwork, and then spins the wheel, Heart. So he came out, he had that as his little action subtitle. So Fire Emblem,
Clockwork Heart.
Clockwork Heart.
Okay.
Naprat had Fire Emblem, the arsonist's name tag.
Ooh.
Furor's Dragon had Fire Emblem, the long dialogues. Dr. Fact had Fire Emblem, the broken wind.
Oh, no.
There was also Fire Emblem, the silent protagonist. And Serge managed to get his own in there because he knew he wouldn't be on a mic this week. Fire Emblem, the Phantom Menace. Wait. The Lost Age. And then he says basically a Fire Emblem game set in the world of Golden Sun. Do it, Nintendo.
Don't you taunt me, Sergio.
And then I had Fire Emblem, the Stranger Danger. From my answer 2 weeks ago, I don't know who any of these people are because I don't play Fire Emblem. So, do you guys have your answers?
Yeah, I do, and it might not be one you would ever expect.
We never do.
Fire Emblem, the brown jacket. You know, the brown jacket, and you're probably thinking, what kind of answer is that? But
I think that all the time.
Well, I say the brown jacket because it's probably the most random thing that you can assimilate for Fire Emblem. Because first of all, they don't wear jackets in Fire Emblem, and I was thinking more like, you know, it could be Fire Emblem in the future where there's just like a elusive brown jacket that is like known to be the jacket that the greatest thieves of all time would ever wear.
Oh dear.
Oh my god.
Yeah, you know, I mean, come on.
You actually
wait. How about Fire Emblem, the fired podcast host?
that's 3 words.
That's more 2 words. I don't know.
Well, you cheated. Guys. I will too.
No. I didn't cheat, but I really mean it, guys. Fire Emblem, the brown jacket. Okay.
All right.
The stolen basketball. Got it. Got it.
Oh, the basketball.
All right, the brown jacket. All right, Daryl, what's your response?
Well, I had trouble doing this without coming up just literally with movie names. So, like, I circled through, like, The Last Jedi, and like every other movie name you could possibly come up with. So I'm gonna go. No context given. I'm gonna say Fire Emblem, the Final Fantasy.
Very nice.
I wonder if a crossover might be.
It's not a crossover.
It's not a crossover. Hey,
but it could
Scott, I would have put you on the spot, Scott. Do you have a response, or can you think of something on the fly here? Fire Emblem, the something.
Yeah, I haven't played Fire Emblem, but I've done a lot of reading, listening, and watching about it. And so from what I've learned about it so far, I would probably say Fire Emblem and the Sorcerer's Chamber of the Phoenix.
Perfect.
Ooh.
Nice.
Perfect.
If anyone gets it.
There you go.
Book it. All right, what's the question for this week? TJ.
Maybe we're the same. The new question is, out of the first Super Mario Brothers games for NES, which is your favorite? So I assume that limits it to just 1, 2, and 3. So which is your favorite?
Ooh. I mean, I already know mine, but I guess we gotta wait till next week.
Yeah, unfortunately, we gotta wait till next week.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Oh. All right. Well, that's probably gonna do it for us. So, TJ, take us away, man.
Well, it's time to jump on out of here. We'd like to thank everybody for listening and supporting the show. If you'd like to show further support to us, you can do so at patreon.com/NintendoJump, or you could leave us a podcast review on your listening application of choice. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at NintendoJump. And in our Twitter bio, you will find a link to our Discord, where you can join a very friendly community centered around Nintendo gaming and making jokes at Kevin. And you'll also see in our Twitter bio, I'm not wrong. You'll also see in our Twitter bio a link to our blog at nintendojump.blogspot.com. And we also have a Facebook group and Instagram also at Nintendo Jump. So thanks again, everyone, for listening. On behalf of Daryl, Kevin, and our esteemed guest, Scott, bye-bye.
Before we go, actually, I'm sorry. Scott, can you tell us where people can find you online? I am sorry for not doing that earlier.
Oh my goodness. Well, I have a lot of things kind of brewing in the fire that I'm not ready to announce yet. So I'd say for the time being, just catch me on Discord as ScottTheGeek. And if we become friends, then I'll tell you about other things when they are ready.
Oh man, spoilers. All right. There you go. TJ, I'm so sorry. Bye.
The Final Fantasy 7 thing. Whatever. I was trying to.
That marks 4 shows that you've done Final Fantasy 7.
That's
man.
not true.
That is true.
Is it true? 4?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, let me get.
Well, the demo just dropped, so it's finally relevant.
That's true. All right. Bye, guys.
All right, bye, everybody. That's part of my mission, by the way. Okay, bye.